I'm Bernice Hook. You want me to tell you where I live?
Mm-hmm.
I lived down along Marwood Road my entire life. I was born down in Marwood in a little house, and when I was about 4 or 5 years old, my parents moved up here on top of the hill and built that nice brick house that's down there. I lived there till 1940 when I went to high school, and then I got married and I lived there in the little house that we built next door to my parents, and then I lived there until I came up here.
And how old are you now?
I'm 93 and I'll be 94 in March the 28th, and it was 1922.
Okay.
Well, where did you go to school? Where did you go to school?
I went to St. Luke's School and I walked all the time except when Mr. Nicol lived down this Marwood Road, and sometimes he would take Doris and George and Doris and I were in school. And it was a depression, so he didn't drive very often. He often walked with us. Up along here where Haven 1 is, where their parking lot is, you could go down over the hill there and you'd come out over by the school, down at the bottom of the hill.
Mm-hmm.
So if it wasn't rainy or wet, you could do that, but otherwise you'd get wet feet. And that was, didn't ride the bus to school, didn't ride the bus until I was in high school.
And who were your teachers? Do you remember?
The only teacher was Mr. O.J. Nicol. Great guy, wonderful.
What did your school look like?
What?
What did your school look like?
Oh, the school was just a one-room school. It had oiled floors, and it had, I think they called them slack burners or something like that. It was just, you just put wood and coal in it, and there was a coal shed down behind the school. And that was the boys' job to bring the coal up and keep it fired up.
And that's the school that's still there.
Mr. Nicol would come and fire up the church on Sundays, so he was there every day of the week.
I think he was a janitor on Saturdays too, wasn't
Yeah,
He was a janitor at all times.
and she didn't drive, so he had to go home and get her and then the kids. So it was really different.
Do you remember the kind of desks you had?
Do I remember what?
The kind of desk you had.
Oh, do I remember the kind of desk? We had desks that had a seat that folded up in the front. And one time when I was in first grade, I was sitting there and I put my feet up in here like this, where you could put your feet up in here. And Mr. Nicol always came along like this and held on to his coat vest. And
Yeah, he did.
I give a good imitation of Mr. Nicol. And I had my feet up like that. And he had the idea to fold that seat up. Oh! I was so afraid to say anything, and I just sat there with my feet hurting. So finally he seen what I was going through and he put it down.
What did you drink at school?
What did I drink?
At school.
We drank from the pump out at the
Yeah.
front of the school. Cold, if it was cold, it was cold, and if it was warm, it was warm.
Did you have an extra cup for each person?
No, we all drank out of the same tin cup, and we didn't get any germs either.
Well, I remembered something like we had a dipper or something.
Yeah, for a while it got bubbled up like.
Mm-hmm. Where did the water come from?
Where did it come from? It came from that well.
Oh, okay. Is the well still there?
I think so. We'll have to ask Joe Klein, but I think the well is still
Is
there.
Oh, I think so,
It
yeah.
would be handy to where the pump is,
Mm-hmm.
was.
Mm-hmm.
How'd you get your lunch?
How'd I get what?
Your lunch?
Lunch? You brought probably a peanut butter and jelly sandwich or something.
In a bag.
No, anything that was, my mom was always even when the kids stopped at our place to go to school along the lower, kids would stop and she would always get bananas. And some kids didn't have a banana, but Mom always, I don't know, I guess I get the giving spirit from my mom because she always had an extra banana for those kids when they'd stop for going to school. And anything like that you especially like, she would say, well, I'm saving this for you for tomorrow, for school.
Did you ever trade lunches?
Well, I think, yeah, if I knew somebody had something and I had something they liked, why it was pretty easy to trade it, as long as you ate it.
Do you remember what you did at recess?
Well, that didn't last very long, so you had to do it quick. I'll probably just run around or something,
Where did you play at recess?
We had, you're too young to remember that, but we had these barns that weren't barns, but they were just like a shed. It was like here and then another one built on and another one, and that's where they used to tie the horses and that, but we played in them because the leaves would blow in there and you could have a lot of fun in there.
Oh.
And even if it was bad, you could still play in those sheds.
Do you remember some of the games you played?
Oh, I was telling Mary Jean and like Andy over and drop the handkerchief and fox and the geese and depend what kind of weather it was,
What was the one with the can? You were telling me one about a can.
Oh, you'd have an old can and you'd take a stick and hit it like hockey. That was kind of dangerous. I didn't like that one too well.
What did you call it?
I think we just called
Kick
it
the
hit
can.
the can, I think.
And where were the bathrooms?
Oh, the bathrooms
That
were the
was the fun
greatest.
part.
They were air conditioned and
Where were they located? Where were they located?
they were located directly in back of the
Yeah.
school. And they were just a two-seater and I think everybody was afraid to go into them. Of course, you had that same kind of accommodation at home, so it wasn't a big deal.
Right.
He either went or he didn't.
What was Christmas like in church and school?
Oh, I think Christmas was just wonderful because we started really early to practice the songs and over and over and over again, and they were so good. And just the anxiety of it, that we knew we were preparing a program about Jesus and tell other people about it, so it was good.
And the church was always decorated so pretty.
Huh?
Church was always decorated so
Oh,
pretty.
yes,
Tell us what it looked like.
Oh, we had a big Christmas tree, always had a big Christmas tree, and ribbons and wreaths on the door and candles and just really Christmassy, real old-fashioned Christmas.
So you had candles.
Yeah.
How did you take care that it was it dangerous? Did anybody have a...
Well, I think it was dangerous, but we were really careful. I mean, the older people that were taking care of it were careful with them.
Did anybody have a bucket of water or something there just in case?
They might have, but I didn't know about it.
Well, and the tree always went from the floor to the ceiling too.
Yeah, where the tree was donated usually,
Oh,
wasn't
yeah.
it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was the end of school like? The end of school.
The end of school was, happy too. Happy and sad, kind of. We practiced lots of songs, and Mr. Nicol would always get a good suntan on whenever he was out all day on Decoration Day. Decoration Day was our day. And he'd be out clapping his hands for us for the maypole, and the sun was beating down on him, and by that night he had a red face. I was thinking of one time we had a spelling bee of the kids first, I don't know what grades it was, maybe 6th, 7th, and 8th, against the parents. And I won the spelling bee. I won a big dictionary, so I thought I was pretty good.
And the maypole was always so pretty.
You tell about the maypole. What did the maypole look like?
The maypole was a round pole, and it had lots of ribbons to it, and then we'd walk so that you'd braid them. If you walked the way you were supposed to, you'd braid them in, and it would look real nice, and then you could go around and unbraid it. And it was just a really nice thing to do because the parents appreciated it too.
Did it ever get messed up?
No, I don't think so.
No.
We knew better than to mess it up.
That was so pretty. What happened when the children didn't obey?
It wasn't like it is now. You were sure to get this reprimand, you know,
And the parents didn't come and,
some kind of punishment. I remember.
yeah, and the parents didn't step in.
One of the things was to have you write 100 times, "I shall not do so and so," you know. It seemed to work. Excuse me.
Tell me about, you told me before about if something was missing.
Oh, if something was missing, someone told the teacher, whenever we came back in from recess, we would all get in our desk and then put everything out that was in your desk, split it all up on top of
Yeah.
your desk. And then Mr. Nicol would walk down the aisles and see who had it, you know. Oh golly, if it was just a pencil, now they wouldn't even stop to think about it. But a pencil cost money, and we took care of them. So he straightened everybody out. He was so kind and gentle with it, though.
Did you get pencils and tablets from at
No.
all?
Your parents bought them.
Okay.
You're going backwards.
There was a time when the county gave a pencil
Yeah,
and a tablet at the beginning of the year.
yeah.
And that had to do you all year.
But I know our church never took it up like we are now.
Okay.
Can you remember some of the funny things that happened?
Peter was always having, I don't know whether he had a little bit of money or whether he got to the store down at Cabot, but he always had some kind of candy. And he had lollipops, and you'd think of a big boy not sucking on a lollipop, but they lasted a long time and they were good for your money. There was a hole in the floor, and I've often wondered how many lollipop sticks were down there.
Well, that's when you could buy penny candy.
Yeah, penny candy was good. And like Elizabeth Wonderly was down at Cabot, and she could get, you know, if we had any money, we'd give it to her so she'd get us some penny candy. Bellied stove
Pot
and
bellied stove.
coal. I don't think they ever burned wood. I don't ever remember them bringing
No,
wood
I don't
in.
either.
I think it must have just been the coal stove.
And where'd they keep the coal?
That little coal shed in back there. I said I went down there, I don't know when it was. I just happened to be walking down there and I looked and it's long gone.
The kids wouldn't know what a piece of coal looked like today.
The stove had a round thing out around it so that it would hold the heat, you know, and it was good. Must have heated us because it was warm.
What did you do in the winter when you came in from recess?
We had to hang up our stuff that was all wet, and we would go down to the pond down by the cemetery there. We'd go down, and you called it ice skating. You were skating in your boots, and grass was in the water. And
Where did you hang your clothes?
I think we just had hooks on the wall, you
Yeah,
know, and you just
you
hung them
did.
there and let them drip out till time to go home.
Yeah.
I think for like funerals, we really had to be good, you know. I can especially remember Herbie Lang's funeral. He was just a teenage kid, you know, and that was really sad. We sang and we were up in church and we knew what was going on.
Yeah, we always had to go to funerals.
You remember that?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
We actually went to funerals when I first came too.
Oh, did we?
Yeah.
I
Oh,
did.
I didn't remember
Yeah.
that. Well, I think we did because Mr. Nicol played.
They don't take the kids up for funerals now, do they? I thought it benefited me. I felt really sad, but I knew where they were going, and as long as you know that, why it shouldn't be so sad. You
Well,
know?
and it exposes you to that.
Mm-hmm.
I think if you avoid it, you know, that then they come up against it and then they're really frightened.
Right.
I know people didn't even want their kids to go to the, but if you tell them that they're died and they were going to go to heaven, well, it should be a happy time instead of being a sad time. Because I know I'm going to die and I'm not sad about that. I'm sad for my kids.
Yeah. Tell them who played for the.
Hmm?
Tell them who played for the service.
Mr. Nicol. He would. We always said Mr. Nicol.
He played the piano and the organ.
he did.
both.
Yep. Yep.
Did you have a piano in the classroom?
I don't know whether we
think-
did, but one time he introduced music, and he brought records, and then we knew like the national anthem and some of them, you know, from Bach and those. But that's how the music was.
We had
learned it.
pianists though. I
Mhm.
remember.
You learned the sound of it, you know. It was because he was such a devoted person.
Right.
He really was. How many people he impressed.
Yep. I agree. Do you remember of any of the classes he taught, like the special classes?
Well, I just remember that I think one of the benefits of going to a one-room school is because I knew by the shores of Gitchigumi, by the sunny deep sea waters, Hiawatha, that other kids were saying it, and by the, hearing it over and over again,
Yeah.
you couldn't help but learn it. So it stuck with me all the time because I've heard it for a long, long time ago.
But like you had music and you had history and you had health, you know.
Well, I think he really emphasized spelling because he said when you're reading, you can see whether it's spelled correctly or not, and it does help you. I think health measures, we didn't have too much on that except they always be clean and things like that, and eat proper foods and things like that he discussed, but it was no real lesson on it, you know. I was thinking of the times that we'd be running and there were the cement walks here and there, you know how the old cement walks went from the church into the school and down to pastors. And I fell and got pretty well banged up. And down to Mrs. Hovius, poor lady, she took care of all of us.
Mrs. Ophius and Mrs.
We would
Nicol.
always go down here. She was our first aid.
I think Mrs. Nicol sewed on buttons
Oh, yeah, Mrs. Nicol too.
Yeah.
and sewed up breeches that broke or
Mrs.
ripped.
Hovius was our doctor. Prayers.
Yeah, that was religious class.
Yeah, religion. It's not a discredit for the school the way it is now, but I think the old way is better. They have I looked at my grandchildren's book when I would have it at home, and you see the thou shalt not blank something. And, or maybe it's a verse, it's like, I love thee, Lord Jesus, look down from above. And now they just fill in the blanks, but we were learning the whole thing. And he would tell us, if you had the whole thing in your heart, then it could help you in a time of need. He often said, like servicemen, he would give us an example. If you were in the war and then you think, lo, I am with you always, even unto the end of the world. It wasn't just, lo, I am something. You know, you had the whole thing in your head and in your heart.
Did you have to repeat your memory verses to him?
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah.
And if you didn't, that was the time when you usually had to write it 100 times.
What about confirmation class? What do you remember?
Well, Margaret and I wanted to be together, so well, we went for 3 years, so we knew it. we just wanted to be confirmed together, and we just did it. They didn't have any objection to having a couple more.
And what about confirmation day when you were actually confirmed?
Oh man, I was a nervous wreck.
Yeah.
I think I felt pretty confident because I learned what I was supposed to learn. It was a wonderful day.
What did you have to do that day?
Yeah.
We had to answer the questions, that were
And we were
in
all
front
scared
of
to
everybody. And then come home and have a nice dinner and have your relatives there. So it was nice.
When they asked you a question and you had to answer it in front of the congregation.
death. Yeah. And each one had a special verse out of the Bible.
Yeah, to prove it, like, suppose you had, swearing and cursing, you should not swear by Jerusalem, for it's the city of a great king. Have to remember every verse, we would know the memory verse for it.
Yeah, but you had a memory verse that was yours for that day.
Oh, I know what you mean when you got your certificate.
Yes.
Mhm.
Do you remember yours?
No, I don't. I don't remember it. House. Grimm's house up in Hannahstown, on Sutton, was in my grid. And they would have the Christmas tree up from Christmas till, I'd say, Easter. Because in the winter, you went in the parlor up there, that room that goes over toward, faces over toward Saxonburg. And you'd have to keep your coat on. But you went in there and you could just look at that Christmas tree, and they'd have a little pan of water down in around the bottom, where you make the park around it. And they'd have a little bridge across it, have a little can of water, and have ducks on it. It was just, they spent so much time with it that everything was just beautiful. Even though it was cold in there, we just enjoyed it.
Okay.
And I can remember when we were kids and lived in Hannahstown, we went around and saw the different trees. We'd go to people's houses.
Mm-hmm. And how did you travel when you were going to someone else's house?
Walk.
Yeah, that's what I was saying.
Always?
Even whenever I was in my teens, if we wanted to go sled riding, we walked from here
I was going to say,
over
I
to
don't ever remember doing anything but walking.
Jefferson Center Hill, and about 3 or 4 trips up and down that hill, you're ready to go home. Yeah, you walked clear up over there, and then you walked right back. That's it.
Did your parents have a car?
Yeah, they had a car. Yeah, but they didn't use it for, if you had legs, you walked. I don't know whether you know, maybe you don't know her, Lillian Frank, Liddy Lauer's adopted sister, Lillian. She lived down across from me at Rose's. Well, she took me to school my first day. And she and I ride back and forth every week. We've done it for years because when she got into high school, she went down to live with him in Pittsburgh because she'd get a better education in Pittsburgh. So anyway, she said, not too long ago, the reason we lived so long because we had so much fresh air. We didn't have anything to do, so we would walk from our place down to Knox Chapel, down to Cabot, down to Marwood and home. A couple times a week. I mean, it was a big entertainment. We walked
used
to
walk to
Lernerville.
Winfield High School and back.
We walked to Lernerville if you wanted to skate. You just walked. You walked to the carnival.
Was there a roller skating rink at Lernerville already then?
Mm-hmm. It's old. Yeah.
Did you have your own skates, or did you?
You rented them.
rent
You
them?
rented them.
Did you ever walk to Saxonburg?
Oh yeah, carnival. We walked to Saxonburg. growing up was just really nice because, I mean, we didn't expect a lot of things, but we appreciated what we had. Too many aren't even satisfied if they have a whole lot of things. We can't do much with things anyway.
Well, life was much simpler.
Today everybody's saying, I just want to get rid of this or get rid of that because can't take it with you.
What about entertainment? What did you have in your house for entertainment? How did you entertain?
Oh, we had Chinese checkers, we had look and rook,
Yeah.
rook. And we had parcheesi, and we had oh, what's that other one? Oh, well, anyhow, we different kinds of cards, all made.
And what kind of radio did you have? Did you have
And one of those little ones like this, you know how they were shaped like that? It's kind of like a little peanut.
You didn't have a big,
No,
a
no,
big,
no. This was just one of those that's shaped like that. It would come down and then over like that.
do you remember listening to anything specifically on the radio?
Oh yeah. Can't think of the name of them now, but there were different ones that my mom and dad listened to.
Amos and Andy, probably.
Can't think what they were.
Amos and Andy?
Amos and Andy would be one. Probably. Oh, that was. He sang "In the Garden." What was his name?
He was with the Gaithers, or he was with who's the evangelist?
I come
Billy
to
Graham.
the garden alone while the dew is
He was in Billy Graham's thing. I'm trying
one of
to.
those like that. But then I know we always
I
listen to
don't think
that.
Billy Graham.
George Beverly Shea.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah,
Catherine
yeah.
Coleman.
Amos and Andy.
Do you remember her?
Yes, Catherine Coleman or
Yeah,
Coleman.
I remember that. She was from up around Clarion.
Really? Okay.
I met her one time up there. Because, you know, Mont came from up at Knox, and we were, anything that was going on up there, we would try to see it there, too. Yeah, Margaret and I were the only ones, and then there was Jim Newbert and Paul Kigler, and then there was a boy that came, Elmer George. He just came for a short time, and then he was confirmed with us, and that was it. There were just 5 of us.